Okay, let's dive into something that really grabbed our attention purely through sound.
Yeah.
Imagine an artist who, like, crafts tension almost like a sculpture shapes clay,
Yeah.
using silence just as deliberately as bass,
Interesting.
and doing it all with that, warm, tactile feel of vinyl.
Okay, I'm intrigued already.
We've got this stack of notes, descriptions, quotes here.
Yeah.
Introducing Vella Nox. She's a new name. Making some waves by joining the 786 Music Syndicate.
Ah, okay. And what's really fascinating looking at this material is that she seems almost deliberately out of step, with a lot of current electronic music trends.
How so?
Well, less flash seems like, more substance, less digital perfection, maybe more analog soul.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive, then, is to unpack who Vella Nox is, try to understand the philosophy behind her, unique approach, explore the tools she uses,
Yeah.
and figure out just how this distinctive sound landed her spot with the heavyweights in the Syndicate, specifically catching Edwin D'Costa's ear.
Right. And the notes give us her background, born in Tbilisi, Georgia. But significantly, she spent formative time in Havana, Cuba.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That geographical mix alone just suggests a rich blend of influences you wouldn't normally find together. Maybe hints of, like, ritual music, atmospheric film scores,
Yeah.
all filtered through this deep connection to early vinyl culture.
That origin story alone is pretty compelling, right?
Totally.
And then you see the initial descriptions the sources use for her. The Mystic Realist, grounded, emotional, someone who works with analog tools to create subtle sonic tension. It just feels like she's operating under the frequency.
It really does. I think the core insight just from these initial notes is that her impact isn't about hype or, spectacle. It's about a profound focus on the fundamental elements of sound itself.
And the emotional response it evokes.
Exactly. Communicating through presence and carefully built audio, not external theatrics.
All right, let's get into the specifics the sources lay out. First off, the basics. Who is Vella Nox?
Okay, so the material identifies her, obviously, as Vella Nox. She also goes by an alias, the Ember Witch.
The Ember Witch, okay.
They know she's 29, born November 3rd, 1995.
And bringing it back to that background, Tbilisi via Havana, it sounds like that time in Havana, soaking up things like ritual music, maybe old film scores, that early vinyl scene.
Yeah.
It really imprinted on her.
Seems foundational, yeah. Especially for that bassline ritual genre she's linked with.
Right. Her primary genres listed are dark tech house, minimal trap tech, and, that evocative bassline rituals.
It's not just the names, though. The notes kind of hint that the influence is deep in the structure, the feel of her music.
And her official role within the 786 Music Syndicate.
Get this. Mystic of Tension and Release.
Okay, that title alone sparks some serious curiosity. How do the sources explain what that means, what she brings to the collective?
It seems like a perfect summary of her unique contribution, actually. Mystic clearly connects to her archetype, right? Suggests a focus beyond just the surface level, maybe a deeper understanding or connection to the craft.
And the tension and release.
Well, that's fundamental to electronic music, obviously. But her specific role implies she approaches this dynamic with a particular mastery. Maybe one focused on subtlety and emotional impact rather than just, peak energy all the time.
Okay, let's dig into that mystic realist idea then. The sources explicitly label her this way. What's the full picture there, according to the notes we've got?
So the definition given is a grounded, emotionally driven artist who blends analog tools with subtle sonic tension.
Grounded, okay.
And crucially, it adds, she communicates more through sound and presence than words or visuals.
So the mystic part isn't necessarily about being, purely ethereal or aloof.
Right.
It's more about a deep, maybe intuitive connection to the emotional core of the music. But the realist part grounds her in the tangible. The analog gear, the physical presence, the actual sound waves.
Exactly.
And this completely flips the script on the sort of modern artist persona, right? Often relying so heavily on social media, elaborate visuals, crowd helping.
Totally. The insight here seems to be her radical focus away from everything except the audio and her energy in the space itself.
The material says that repeatedly.
Yeah, it emphasizes that the sound and the energy she channels are the entire performance. There's no reliance on external production value beyond the sound system itself.
Which leads us right to her mixing style and the tools she uses. And this is where she makes a very deliberate statement. All vinyl mixing only?
Yeah, that's huge.
In an era dominated by digital software, controllers, choosing vinyl is a powerful artistic decision. What does that signify, you think?
Well, it signifies a commitment to a specific process, right? A different texture, and inherent limitations that actually require immense skill. Vinyl has that unique warmth, that physical quality. It demands a direct interaction with the music.
And the notes confirm she uses analog EQ and manual pitch bend.
Yep.
So for listeners maybe less deep in the DJ tech weeds, that means she's not relying on a computer to sync beats automatically. She's using her hands on the turntable platters to perfectly match tempos and shaping frequencies with physical knobs. These are old-school techniques demanding precision and feel. They contribute to that less sterile, more felt sound we talked about.
Exactly. It adds that layer of human dexterity, sonic character. But the really unique element the sources highlight, her method for building tension.
Oh.
Beyond using field recordings and cinematic ambience, the key tool is silence.
Silence. As a musical tool, that feels almost counterintuitive in electronic music, doesn't it?
It does, but what does the source material say about how she uses it? I think you highlighted one quote.
Yeah, this one. I don't play music to fill silence. I play it to let silence breathe between the bass.
Wow. Yeah.
That completely reframes how you think about the quiet moments, right? It's not just absence, it's intentional space. Almost like a pause for breath or anticipation, designed specifically to make the impact of the sounds, especially the bass, even stronger when they return.
The insight there is huge. Silence isn't negative space for her. It's an active element, sculpting the sound.
And the notes back this up.
Totally. They list other techniques supporting this. Long transitions allowing for slow, deliberate mood shifts. Reverse snares building that unease in anticipation.
Oh, yeah.
And whispered vocal layering, adding this intimate, almost secretive texture to the soundscape.
Her performance setup really just nails home this commitment to the tactile, the analog. Always performs with 2 Technics decks, a rotary mixer, and custom vinyl crates.
No screen glowing in front of her?
Exactly. It's a minimalist setup. Forces the audience, you, to focus on the physical process and the sound coming from the speakers.
And it connects right back to that note that she uses. No visual effects or crowd interaction, sound and energy do the work. It's a purist approach, really.
So her philosophy, according to these sources, summed up as less is everything, emotion over energy. How does that actually manifest in her mixing style beyond the tools?
Well, it seems to mean resisting that urge to constantly build to, explosive peaks. The notes describe deep bass restraint. The bass is felt, it's powerful, but it's not overwhelming or constant.
Right, controlled.
And ultra-slow filter sweeps. That suggests a gradual evolution of sound, guiding you subtly rather than shocking you with sudden changes. The focus is clearly on creating an emotional journey, not just sustaining high energy.
And the quotes in the material are just gold here, like, vinyl slows me down just enough to feel again.
Yeah, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? About the deliberate pace, the physical connection grounding her whole process.
Then there's, the wax tells me when it's ready, you can't rush bassline sorcery.
Yeah, personifying the music, the medium, giving the vinyl itself a sense of agency, demanding patience. It's great.
And this one, I don't drop beats for shock. I drop them when there's a reason to land.
Perfect. Captures the intentionality, every beat drop, every shift. It's motivated by the emotional or narrative arc she's building, not just for cheap thrills.
And circling back to silence, silence is the most honest part of the mix.
It reinforces that idea that in those quiet moments, the true impact and resonance of the sound before it and the anticipation of what's coming, that's where it's most keenly felt.
Her physical presence during a set also seems designed to reflect this whole philosophy. The sources describe her look. Windblown hair partially covering her face.
Yeah.
Minimalist, black 786 music apparel, slim jeans, sneakers, intentionally understated.
And her body language is noted as poised, low motion, focused. Never exaggerated gestures. The energy's channeled internally, right? Through the music itself, not external performance.
Even her rituals sound minimal and focused. Never speaks during sets, hugs her headphones once before playing.
It's about centering herself in the process, blocking out the external noise. It all just reinforces the same message. Focuses on the sound, the emotion, the tangible interaction with the vinyl.
Okay, so given this incredibly focused, almost understated approach, how did she even get noticed by a collective like 786 Music Syndicate, known for its diverse and impactful artists? How did Edwin D'Costa discover her? The notes have the story.
Yeah, it was remarkably organic, almost unconventional, according to the material. An anonymous USB drive containing one of her live, all-vinyl mixes was simply handed to Edwin D'Costa at a Berlin art festival. This was in 2024.
An anonymous USB. No agent pitch, no massive online portfolio, no marketing package, just the raw music on a thumb drive.
Pretty much.
That feels like something out of a different era of music discovery. Like, wow.
It really highlights the power of the sound itself in her case, doesn't it? Her artistry, even just on an anonymous USB, was potent enough to cut through.
And D'Costa's reaction. The quote.
Just one word. Surgical.
Surgical. Wow.
Yeah.
That single word says so much about the precision, the control he must have heard in that mix.
Absolutely. And his first message back to her. I listened. You're in.
Just like that.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Direct, powerful validation based purely on the audio.
And the timeline highlights show this wasn't just a sudden thing for her, right? She's been cultivating this approach.
Exactly. She hosted her first Candlelight all-vinyl set way back in 2017. So it demonstrates this long-standing commitment to the format that predates her Syndicate induction by years.
Okay, let's try and translate those audio mood tags, the sources list, into the actual listening experience for someone discovering her. What does her music sound like based on these descriptions?
Okay, the tags give us the core ingredients. Warm vinyl crackle.
Nice.
Deep bass restraint. Ambient field recordings. Reverse snares and echoes. Cinematic tension build. And ultra-slow filter sweeps.
Okay, so putting that together.
Yeah.
You get that classic rich texture only vinyl provides. The bass is deep, resonant, you feel it physically, but it knows when to pull back, creating that tension.
Right.
She weaves in atmospheric sounds, field recordings, building these immersive environments. Then those reverse snares and slow filter sweeps create these deliberate, almost visual shifts in mood and intensity, guiding you through a sonic narrative.
And notice what's absent from the tags.
What's that?
Crowd noise.
Ah, good point, yeah.
It's another detail reinforcing that her focus is solely on the composition of the soundscape itself, not capturing or relying on the energy of the room. It's all about the composed audio.
Which brings us back to that key descriptor.
Mixed with emotion, not energy. Exactly.
So that brings us to her place within the 786 Music Syndicate. How does an artist with this introspective, analog-focused sound fit into a collective with such diverse energies and styles? The cross-linking notes give some hints.
Yeah, based on the material, her sonic vibe is noted as closest to Area Cynthia, the Phase Walker, particularly in terms of emotional depth and precision pacing. They seem to share that meticulous approach to crafting specific feelings through sound.
But she's also explicitly positioned as kind of the opposite, energy-wise, to Jinx Static, the sonic disruptor.
Right, whose focus is on creating chaos through hardware. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Jinx leans into disruption, Vella leans into carefully sculpted tension and release. Polar opposites in a way.
And she complements others, too.
Yeah, the note suggests she complements Omnibeat, the Oracle, through polyrhythmic layering, and Lux Onyx, the Technomancer, through sound architecture.
Sound architecture.
Which kind of implies her foundational work, that deep, restrained bass, the tension builds, the use of silence. It provides this unique structural or rhythmic layer that other Syndicate members can interact with, build upon, or maybe even contrast against.
So she might be providing a crucial grounding element for the whole collective sound. Interesting.
Could be, yeah.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into the source material on Vella Nox, she's joining the 786 Music Syndicate as the mystic of tension and release. An artist rooted in Tbilisi and Havana, her sound is this blend of dark tech house, minimal trap tech, and bass line rituals.
Defined as the mystic realist, grounded, emotional, focused entirely on analog vinyl mixing.
Right, using tools like manual pitch bend, analog EQ, and most notably silence to build that subtle sonic tension.
Her philosophy, less is everything, emotion over energy, reflected in her deliberate pace, deep bass restraint, and that performance presence that channels energy inward, not outward.
And discovered purely through the power of her art on an anonymous USB stick. She really represents a fascinating counterpoint in the modern music landscape.
Absolutely. She brings this dedication to craftsmanship, emotional depth, and a direct tactile connection to the sound that just bypasses the usual spectacle. She kind of compels you to listen differently, doesn't she? To focus on the texture, the space, the underlying feeling.
And that leads us to a thought to maybe carry with you from this deep dive. Vella Nox finds power and expression in restraint, in silence.
Yeah.
In a world that often feels saturated with noise, constant stimulation, the pressure to always be more. What can we learn from an artist who discovers the deepest connection, the most impactful expression, by choosing less?
It's That's a good question.
And how does that intentional limitation of her analog tools, focusing on just 2 decks and a mixer, how does that paradoxically seem to lead to a richer, more felt musical experience for you, the listener? Something to consider the next time you find yourself just overwhelmed by all the noise out there.